Okay. So I'll be going on brief introduction on Loadrunner. So yesterday we had the introduction on QTP. Okay. So I'll be also giving an introduction on Loadrunner. So okay, if you have questions, you can reach me out after class. And okay, so before Loadrunner, I just wanted to go through some of the interview questions actually. So you can just look few of the interview questions. Okay. Most of them are like are familiar. Okay. Uh, this questions is there in the Google Drive. You can go through it. Or okay, some of the interview questions are a little bit tricky. Okay. Sometimes they ask some random questions. That are there in a resume. Most of them will be there from a resume, right? Everything almost will be there. So to answer those kind of questions, right? You don't have to answer everything, like you don't have to be specific for everything. So you can be like talk high level about that, like you can say see sometimes, right, in your resume you'll be putting like QTP. Okay. Or something like you don't know, like you'll be putting Java but you never know Java. Okay. So the way you have to answer, right? So they will ask, okay, what kind of work you have done in the Java. So you have um, so can you explain? Or sometimes the client interviews are a little bit tricky. So they'll say like, okay, so how do you explain? How do you do this? As per your experience goes, how did you do this project? How? So the way you have to answer this question is like a little bit professional level, right? So you need to say like, yeah, I used to do like there was actually the different team who was actually handling that. Okay, so I was actually I was working with I was coordinating with the teams to make sure to make things there was a lot of defects opening, so we we used to actually I was working with the team and to make sure that the issue is resolved. Issue is resolved, and I used to follow back with the team. But technically, I don't want to sound as a pro in that. I don't want to sound as a pro, but of course, I have knowledge. And if you're given a chance, I can become like I can be a pro, and I can learn more on that. So, but yeah, of course, I have knowledge in that because there was a team who was working on that, and I was coordinating with that. Okay, you can say you need to be professional while talking, right? You need to be very professional, and you need to answer the questions uh, very accurately, at least. If not, you cannot, don't have to be specific in everything. You don't have to be specific. Just make sure know that you answer, at least you answer those questions, making okay, you have some knowledge or some experience. Okay, this guy looks like an experienced guy. So the way they have to so sometimes they'll ask, okay, how did you handle the situation? Like you have like we have given you 4 projects, and how do you handle the situation, and how do you, so you can answer like, so like, yeah, so based on the priority, and I used to, so a lot of coordination, right? I used to coordinate with the lead, and I used to coordinate with the I used to coordinate with the developers, and I used to coordinate with the product owners to make sure, right, everything is and based on that inputs, based on them, like we used to have meetings, right? We used to have meetings, and based on that, like I used to come up with a solution, and I used to start working on the project which is the most important, and which is the which is going to be in release, than the project which is actually into the which is the least important. So I used to coordinate, a lot of stuff, and I used to work on that project. So you can be, the way you have to answer is like, professional level, and make sure, you have the experience. So in remaining technical point of view, you can answer it. I mean, you can just learn, and so simple things like test plans, test cases, Okay, something you don't know, right? Something if you like, most of them will be in the requirement, based on the requirement. See, everything you have to be concentrating on the requirement. What is the requirement and what are the questions they are asking? It will be, most are, you know. Give me a second. Okay, so most of them will be, based on the requirements. So based on the what are the requirements and what they are. So mostly, sometimes they might ask questions like, general questions to make sure, like, you answer it. That shows like you're professional, like, professional and you're well experienced. That shows like, experience. So they want to see, like, see, most of the interviewers don't see what knowledge you're having. They want to see how much, experience you have. Okay, do you know this? Do you know that? Those kind of things are, they are not interested in it. They are interested the way you talk, right? The way you actually answer those questions. That is most important. That's what, they look at it. Okay, that's what they look at it, and that's what they actually will consider. And remaining all technical, small technical things, you can handle it. Okay, so that is. Sometimes you don't know answers, right? In that time, sometimes like, half answer. Sometimes you don't know like complete answer for that. So in that case, you can answer that question and say, yeah, yeah, I mean, I was actually, I got a chance in my, previous project, which I was doing, and now I got a chance in that to learn about the tool. But recently, like, since in the recent project, they were not using that. They were not using that. So my I was actually concentrating more on a new tool rather than the tools. But if I get a chance, of course, I can, I can learn that. No big deal. It's not a big deal. I can just, I can work on that, and I can finish my work. Okay. So can go through this document. Okay. So this is not. I mean, yeah, this is technically good. You can technically you can look into it and just understand it. But no, you need to more concentrate on the way you talk. Okay, that's the more important. The way you actually handle those questions. That is more important than any other answers, right? I mean, that's even if you don't know answers, sometimes they take based on your communication skills. How sometimes they like the way you are talking. That's most of the time that is the case actually. You are answering in pretty, the way the experienced guy is answering, right? So that makes the hit. Okay. Okay. So let's get started with the load runner. Okay. Okay. So load runner, you know. So load. Why do we use load runner to test? Okay. Performance. Per- So basically performance of the application. So how the application is behaving. Okay. Whenever, so how much the amount of load you are putting and how much stress it's taking, how much stress, the amount of stress it's taking. You know, load testing and stress testing we do using the loader. So there are other tools. Okay, that is, um, other than loader, there are other tools too. Okay. Not sure. So loader is from HP. I know. So load runner is from HP, but there is also load UI. You know, even that is different, and everyone has their own tools. Okay, IBM has its own, own way of their testing, and Microsoft has their own. So everyone has their own tool. Loadrunner is much more famous, so so people use Loadrunner. Okay, so this is also an automation tool, but this is nothing to related to regression testing. It is related to performance testing. So once the regression testing is done, or or before that, or parallelly, sometimes they do parallelly. Okay, performance, there is a like performance team going on, and there is regression team going on. Okay, so they do, sometimes they do parallelly or like one after the other. So what they do is like they want to see, okay, they want to see like how the application is behaving. Okay, that's the reason they use so Loadrunner. Okay, so okay, so the framework, so this is also like QTP. This is also record and playback, and this also has actions. Okay, so there again you have the actions, right? External actions and reusable action and non-reusable action, similar. Okay, so here it's like automation framework. So this also, you can say it for QTP as well as Loadrunner. Since both are the automation tool, you can take it as similar framework. It don't have to be same. This is Loadrunner framework is not same with the QTP framework, but it is similar. This the directory structure, the structures of directories, folders will be similar. So the same test case script. Now you have test case script, then you have script. Okay, now you will be putting everything this in one directory, right? Some create one folder and put in this, so that is like and you have bunch of directories, like test cases, test scripts, library functions, library procedures, then you have database, database data, all those things. You'll be there have to be some place to store all this, right? So that is combine all those things, it's called framework. So this is all framework structure. Okay, yeah. So here is the thing. So here you have various tools like Loadrunner is from HP. Okay, and then you have IBM Rational Functional Tester. Okay, this functional tester is for functional testing, not for performance. Then you have Load UI also you have. Okay, Load UI. That is also like to test the load. You test load and stress. So that is from a different third party company. Okay, so now so before only I told you, right? Why do we use Loadrunner? Let's say you have so as already. Just giving you a brief introduction. So the same thing. Now you have application. So let's say thousands of people are logging into that application, and you want to see how much load and how much performance, how much stress it is taking, and how much, and the server is capable only to take some amount of users into that. Okay, it can, because the reason, right? Because server, whenever user tries to log in, whenever the user is trying to access that um, website or access anything, like if it is client application, okay, client application is not that it's not that heavy, because web applications are broken easily, right? So, but the client application are don't require much stress, because no application is not running in the server. Application is running on your system, but the only communication is going on is in the server, whatever your communication thing. But as far as web application, even the communication and database queries, and lot of stored procedures, and whenever you are trying to access URL, everything, so many things are going on web application, and it can easily broken. It can easily be broken. Why? Because too much stress, too much load. Okay, and not even that. Server might be suddenly server stops behaving. Some reason server broke down. No reason. Okay, so those kind of things. So that affects that application. So when you are trying to, so whenever you are trying to test, and whenever the user logs in into the application, it consumes some resources from the server, and then whenever it tries, whenever it takes amount of some resources, it takes some amounts of resources, and then some bandwidth, okay, some space, all this. So now since server cannot handle that many users at once, so then we use like load balancer. So load balancer is used to balance the load between one server and another server. Okay, now if you're let's say for example like 100 users are logging into same server, now that load balancer what it does is like takes up that 50 users from that server and puts into the another server, so that it balances the load. It balances the load. So in this case what we will be trying to put more and more load on the server to make sure so we don't like so there will be like so everything is like everything is it's already done. I mean everything, only we use the load runner, load balancer, and already it's all are installed in the system and everything is good. So when you use load runner, okay, everything happens, that balances the load. Still we are trying to test how the application is responding, how the application. So that's why we use one of the reason to use the load runner. And so it is used for the performance testing, for load and stress testing. And then we go to next. So these are the requirements for load runner. Okay, let's go to the architecture. Okay, so here, okay, before that, right? Let's go to. Okay, so in load runner, let's get back to the tool, right? Now let's in the load runner, you have three major modules, okay, or components, okay, three major components. One is VueGen, that is virtual user generator. So that means see, we cannot use manually, right? We need like if you want to put 1,000 users, so we don't have 1,000 people to do that work, right? Why do you hire 1,000 people to put the stuff? So that's the reason. This what does this virtual user does? It generates the how much load does it generates it by 1,000 people. It that is amount of it generates the load. That's why it's called VueGen. That means virtual user generator. It generates the amount of load that is how much load it is generating by the users. It can generate. And then this is where you have the script gets updated into the VueGen. Okay, VueGen, and you can edit the scripts. But in this scripts are based on the C++. Okay, it's not Visual Basic. Okay, and then you have another more component controller where you in this controller what you do is control it. That means you actually have how much users, how much view, how much users you need to put, like 500 users, 1,000 users, okay, and so on. If you need more users like 1,500, 2,000 users, then you need to buy a license, okay, because you need to buy license and you can generate that much of users. Okay. And in this controller, you also have real-time graphs. So that graphs are based like on various, so how much amount of load you are putting against the how much resources is consuming, like how much bandwidth is taking, how much throughput. So most important is throughput, right? Throughput. And then you actually there are so many like there are like plenty of graphs that you take into consideration while doing load testing and stress testing. With the load testing itself, they are like like 20 to 30 graphs. Now at that time, like this was around I don't know 2010. So this was now it's since 6 years. So it has been more graphs, like maybe I don't know 50 graphs. So there are so many graphs. How much resources, how much bandwidth, how much users they are logging it. So based on x-axis and y-axis, you have the graphs. So there you have real-time graph generated. Analyze where you analyze the results. So now let's say you are actually you have got a graph and its peak value is high. Suppose you have any peak value and you want to see the granularity of that graph, and you do that and analyze it. Okay, so how much you need in this time, in this in this particular period of time, how much the server has responded, how much the application is being behaving that way. Is it application is being okay, if the application is stopped, or is it, so all those you analyze in the analyzer. So this is already, so those are basically graphs. Okay, those are graphs which are generated and you analyze that. Okay, so that is three major components. And then you, okay, what you do in the virtual user, so this is like server, okay, where your virtual user generates the load, okay, to this server. Since we don't have that many users, so manually you cannot do this work, so you need automation tool. That's why virtual gen this tool, this module, this component generates the amount of users, okay, to this server and gives the load. So what it does, so what are the features of this VUgen? It creates virtual users, okay, it has scripts. We also do recording and playback for this, okay, there's also recording and playback. Then you have generation, okay, and debug and run. So these are the features that that an VUgen does. This is also similar, like similar like QTP. Now you create record and playback. You can do that. Okay, but in this case, you are actually trying to see the um, not the functionality of the application. You are trying to see the performance of an application. Okay, so that's the difference. And then you have controller. So let's see how does that looks like, right? Let's say how does the VueGen looks like. So this is whenever you open the screen, this is how you know. Okay, this is how, yeah, this is the recent one. So you guys can download it if you want to, so this is good. See here you have so many features, right? So there is actions, okay, just like these are like three major actions, like view user init action and then view user end. So we don't write anything in view user init and view user end. So these are normally start action and end action. Unless specified, you will be using this. Otherwise, you will be only all the scripts are generated in the action. So this also has like um, external reusable action and non-reusable action. Okay, so similar thing. And you here you have record and playback. Okay, here you whenever you record a new application shows up, or you can open an application, record that, and again whenever you want to stop, you can stop it, and the whole code is generated into the action, and then you can run them. In this case, you can also do parameterization. The same thing, see, since you also can do the parameterization in the Loadrunner too, a similar feature. So this is how you know that script looks like. Okay, but this is most of the in the C language. Okay, and then that's good. So that is okay. View generator. Let's go to the controller. So normally, we don't. So you can write code in. So you can write code in this one, like action. Okay, in the action you can write code just like similar this. Okay, but you don't have to write code. So that is like in a job of someone else, like QA developer, or load runner developer, someone. Okay, so you need to only you need to only just run the scripts. Normally we will run the scripts. So this is like more of a C language, C or C++. Okay, normally it is C. Okay, so Okay, so that is in the VueGen. In controller, you will be, so this is the main, like, controller, right? This is where you actually control everything. What kind of graphs you want. Okay, so what can you choose all these things here. So you have like two sessions. One section is like design section, where you design the load testing scenario, and another is run section, used to monitor the scenarios which are in the execution. Okay, let's see how does that looks like controller. Okay, so here you, this is the old version. Okay, so let's, push the images. So okay, good. So this would be better. Yeah, so this is good. Now this is clear, right? This should be good. Now you, this is the controller section. Here, as I said, right, there are like two design or run section. Okay, and of course there is one more diagnostics for J2E.net. So we don't worry about much of that one. So here what you do is there are so many other functions here, so many other functionalities. Whenever you upload a script, okay, once you are will be running that scenarios. Okay, well, it has own scenarios, right? Suppose let's say you have generated like 10 scripts, so you can have that 10 scenarios. That can be included into one. Okay, so then you can run this one scenario. Okay, so you are trying to run that script. So when you want to run that script, you click on this run button. Okay, before that you can into view users. Okay, this is the view users, how many virtual users you need. Okay, so let's say you need like 500 virtual users. Okay, now you want to see when you amount put the load how much the load of 500 users, then you assign that 500. If you need more, you have only limited, right? You don't, even if you like big corporations, right, you don't give like those many users, you need to buy the license for that. Okay, so whenever you need to, so if there are more, you need like 2000, like 100,000, 2000 users, right? Then you need to buy more license, spend more money. Otherwise, that's that's not free. You can only allow only certain amount of users. Okay, so you can assign virtual users, let's say 500 virtual users, and then you actually how many users are running. You can run that and see. Okay, let's say, so these are like past transaction, failed transaction, and errors. Okay, so these are like most of the, these are whenever you run it. Okay, there will be that it goes through iterations, like just like QTP, it opens an application, it goes through all those features, all those functions, and it's click button. Okay, it's everything it does, and then whenever it passes or it fails. So those are the, if it is passed, then it updates here, and if it is failed, it updates. And errors are like sometimes it doesn't run, or some pop-up window shows up in between, so those are shown up as errors. Okay, so these are also run like not many hours, but yeah, these are also run for many hours, but based on the requirement. Suppose you want to run 500 users for let's say 5 minutes for 4 iterations. Okay, so now you want to, you will assign those in scenarios, or in VueGen, where you want to assign so how many iterations it has to work, or how many iterations it has to run. So those things, if you when you assign, the time also will be like in hours. So what you do is just put that and just leave it, and you do something else, some other work. Okay, so, and then you have graphs. Okay, so here these graphs are real time. Whenever you run those, whenever it runs a scenario, any scenario, it's going to run, right? The graphs are real time, it gets updated. Okay, so there are so many graphs, like like user defined data points, error statistics, trans response rate, throughput, okay, trans per second failed. Okay, so these are all the graphs. So all these are updated here, and so this is, I mean, there's not much work. You only just need to view this. That's it. So in controller, you assign all those functions and all those features, and that's it, done. So here you don't actually do anything else, just and watch it till it completes. Okay, so since you don't do just only this, you'll be working on another project, and you put this aside and forget about it, and work on another project. So that's how you, because this is not nothing to do much on clicking and running on those. So just put it and forget it. And how many hours it will take, how many minutes it will take. After that, you come back and see that result. Or sometimes if it is like less than 20 minutes or 30 minutes, right, then you view so how it's responding in 30 minutes. Like 400 users have been logged in, it has reached some peak value, and now you then at the real time it's showing like peak value. Now you want to see, no, the server gets is clearly a little bit it started to behaving odd. The application is becoming unstable. Okay, so that time you want to see that. Okay, so that's not only is important, but if it is like normal, if you want to see the only the critical situations, critical graphs, then you will be using this. So this is a controller. Okay, so here you will have all this graphs, and then okay, so we have seen this is as a run. Okay, there is also design. Okay, design, how do you want to design. Okay, and then you have like analyzer. So analyzer, all, see, now we have all the script is generated. Now Vugen script is generated. Now you're running the script and running that scenarios, everything is good. Now graphs are generated. Now all those will be saved someplace, right? Let's say you all those you have ran, okay, or hours together, or or how much time it was taken, you have saved it. That now all that file, okay, all that whatever the your work you have done is will be stored, or you have to save it, right? Save it someplace. And then whenever you have opened the analyzer section, you have to pull up those records and analyze the results. Okay, so what you will be doing in this, you will be in the analyzer, you will be observing the reports, how did it went. Okay, so what are the graphs, how the performance of the system was there when you put a certain amount of load. Okay, so let's see how does that analyzer looks like. So here let's take an example here. Okay, so once you do analysis, okay, you get this report. There is also report for this, okay, and then how many have passed and how many have failed. So this is like important, right? So we need more of a passed and failed. So how many scripts has been passed and how many has failed. So this is the old one. Don't have. Okay, so here is the graph. So here we can see so many. So here's one graph. This is average transaction response. So there are so many other graphs. Okay, this is one more graph. Okay, so what in analysis you just only see the graphs. Okay, and graphs, and you want to see, you want to see particular area or particular you want to see the granularity of that particular location. Okay, and you want to highlight it, highlight it and view that results and see why it is suddenly. Let's take an example of this. Now you want to analyze this result. So you have this graph, right? So this is suddenly it went down. Okay, so why did it go down? So you analyze that, right? Why did it go down? We didn't reduce the number of virtual users. Then how come it is the response time has taken, why it's too low. Okay, why it is again it suddenly came up. Okay, so normally you analyze, and after doing that, after let's say 5 minutes 15 seconds, suddenly the peak went so high. Why is that? How come this users have came up suddenly from 500 users, let's say. 500 users, so it'll come up to 1,000 users. Why it's happening? You analyze those things. Okay, so that's what is done in the analyzer. Okay, so there is nothing much to do in the analyzer session too. Just analyze those results and verify that and generate the reports. So there are so many reports. I'm sorry, there are so many graphs. Okay, running users, hits per second, throughput, transaction summary, and so on. So there's also Unix, CPU utilization. How much CPU it is utilizing. So CPU of a server, right? It also has the CPU. So how much it is utilizing when you are putting 500 users. So when you are putting 500 users, the peak is coming up, showing up so high. Why is that? It's nowhere. It's in 15 minutes of time. Let's say this elapsed time is 14 minutes, right? 14 to 15 minutes. In 14 to 15 minutes, we didn't do anything. No user is still logged on. Suddenly, one user or someone is logged in, but the utilization went up so high. Why it's consuming so much resource? So you got analyze that things. So that's what you do in the analyzer. Okay, and you generate the reports, and once you generate the reports, and again you submit those reports to your lead or the concerned person. So that's what we do in the analyzer. That's it. Okay, and then you have like ThinkTime. So just like in QTP we have wait, same thing. So we have that whenever application is trying to navigate into another application, you are instructing the QTP don't know. So it takes some time. The server takes some time, right? QTP don't know. So you need to instruct the QTP saying that wait. You have that command wait, and in bracket you put 10. That means wait for 10 seconds. So you have to wait. Otherwise the script would fail. So similar way you have think time. This is also like you are actually telling that loader to wait, because this is the time taken by the user and user is trying to fill a form. You need to wait at that time. Okay, you also need to whenever you're running that, you need to wait. So that is think time. So then you have like, so you also can use the parameterization, same thing you can be used. Here you don't have keyword view or expert view, there's only an expert view where you have all the code written into that. Only one screen you have, and all the code is written in that, and you need to parameterize. Same thing you can do is right click there and click on parameterize. Just you can just click on that, whatever the value of an object, value of an that yeah, of course you will have that object, right? Same thing, if you have the value of an object, click on that and click here and parameterize. You will be having right click and parameterize that value, and you can see in this case you don't have that Excel sheet integrated into it. You will have an option, go to the where you will be having an options menu, where menu bar, and go into it, and parameters. Once you click on parameters, you have various options where you have the internal sheet design. Okay, there you can parameterize those values. Okay, so this is all that. And yeah, so there are like other, right? Rational team test, HP Loadrunner is from HP, OpenST8, QA load, web load. So these are the various other tools related to Loadrunner. Okay, and okay, so this is the architecture for the Loadrunner. So what it does? So you have no, this is the server. Okay, there is a web server, the client server, database server. Okay, so many other servers, of course. Okay, so there's these three servers. Here what you are doing, like you are actually putting the load in sense the users, virtual users. So you're like 3 4 5, or many. Okay, from 100 people. Okay, 100 users, trying to put stress on the server, web server. Whenever you're trying to put how these all things are responding. So this is like monitor. So monitor is like controller. Okay, this is like monitor is like controller, and this is like Vuegen. Okay, let's be more specific. Maybe it's not clear. Okay, so here's the thing, right? So here what you have. Okay, so this is like this is you're trying to controller. So this is a controller. Okay, you're actually controlling. So how much users you need to put, and how many. Okay, how the application should behave, how many virtual users, SLA, service level agreement, all those stuff in controller. And then this is where you are actually Vuegen. This is kind of Vuegen where you actually generating how many virtual users, scripts and all those things, and running that, recording and playback and all those is happening in the Vuegen. Okay, so that is Vuegen, and this is the controller where you're actually trying to put that load into it and trying to monitor it. How is it, how is it working? And this is like analyzer. Okay, you're analyzing it. You have generated. So in the controller you have generated the graphs. Okay, all the graphs are generated, like throughput, throughput, resources, bandwidth utilization, and all the graphs, whatever the graphs which is required, okay, are generated. Now you're trying to analyze this in the analyzer section. Okay, and generating reports from it, and you generate the reports and send it to your manager or whoever responsible for that. Okay, so that is architecture of the load runner. So this is like similar. Okay, the process, how the load runner process. So you plan the load test, then create the virtual user scripts, define the scenario, run the scenario, analyze the result. That's it. Okay, that's what you do in the load runner. This is a process for the load runner. So you have like 20% for scripting, load testing 30%, analysis 50%. Okay, total time is like 100%, right? So in the 100% of time you'll be using this, and then you have. So this is like an example for the. I don't have this one. Okay, so here whenever you want to generate that Vuegen, right? So this is also like similar feature, like where you have that. Do you want to generate an HTML based or URL based or advanced? So these also have similar addings like PPP has, right? Like JavaScript or. Okay, so these also has like high level recording or low level recording. Okay, you can also do the similar thing with that. Okay, this also has the add-ins. Okay, well, is it Java, you have like .NET and all those things, you can also do it in the Loadrunner. Then you have. So this also has like similar, like it gets stored like in objects. Okay, everything it's not exactly objects, but that's how it gets stored. Okay, it gets stored, and then you can reuse all this. If it is you know if you want to use this as a reusable action, then you can also reuse it. Okay, and here you have. So whenever you're trying to run it, right, whenever you're trying to run, how many iterations you want to run. So you want to see test the load. Okay, you want to see the load for every now you want to try for 100, and you have to next load you want to run it for 200, 250. Then how many iterations it has to run. Okay, that's what you want to perform. So you don't want to go and run it again and again for right, you can assign iterations. That means it will run automatically. You don't have to wait again, keep on running the same thing again and again, right? You don't have to do that. You can assign the iterations, let's say 5 iterations, 3 iterations, but it will take consume that multiplied by the time will take more. So let's say one script which has to run in like 7 minutes or 8 minutes. Okay, if you put more, then more like 7 3 21 minutes, and 30 minutes, you'll be just running the script because you have assigned more iterations. So it will be multiplied with the time. So the more iterations, more it will take more time. Okay. So this is like features where you can assign like what are the general features, like how much of the run logic, pacing. So these are the, if you want to, so these are like specific to the iteration. So if you are, let's say you have started the iteration, how does, so it, how soon that next iteration should start. Whether it should start immediately after that, or it has to wait for the this time. So this is like you're assigning how much I know how to start an next iteration. Okay. So then this is also one more feature, the log. So these are the runtime settings. You are trying to see the, whenever you are trying to run, you are seeing the features. What are the features it can do? Okay. So whenever this, you can go to the files, or mostly it will be files or user settings. Normally user. Okay. In the menu bar, you can go to the menu bar and you can check the runtime settings and you can view all this. Okay, you can view all these features. So here you also have logs. Okay, whenever you run it, the logs get stored, right? So all those logs, now how do you want to store, which location you want to store the logs? Okay, you can also assign that. And then you have about think time. Okay, you want to ignore the think time or you want to use this think time, you can use that one, that feature too. So this is also like error handling. Just like QTP you had error handling, right? So this is the same way you have the error handling. How did the load runner should perform if there is an error? So continue error or fail the transaction if there is an error, or generate a snapshot of an error. So this is the like similar features, like just like QTP. And then multi-threading options you also have. That means how many users parallelly can run. Okay, all the users should run as a parallelly, or the one after the other. Every 5 minutes there have to be one users added. So because every user, whenever you run that application, right, every users keep on logging, don't have to be same, right? So suddenly 2 minutes, suddenly 100 users logged in, suddenly how. So that's what you use if you want to use multi-threading. That means people wants to add it. If you want to add many users, you can use that multi-threading simultaneously. Every 2 minutes 3 people logged in, and again next in 2 minutes 500 people log in. So it's like that. Then you have these transactions. These are also like similar transactions, like start transaction and end transaction, like QTP. And then you have okay, this is speed. How much speed you want to use, like how much bandwidth you want to use whenever you are trying to run it. Okay. So this is browser, information about the browser, like what browser you are using, Firefox or IE. Normally IE and Firefox it is supported, not any other browser. So I think the new version has the Chrome too, but I've never tested it. Maybe you can test that. Um, this is if you want to connect to the proxy. Okay, so this is also have like some kind of checkpoints, like you have QTP, you also have some, but this is not a very highlighted in way. This is like only just few checkpoints. You don't have like all the checkpoints, like database checkpoint and image checkpoint, bitmap. No, you have only small, only one, that is image and text check. That's it. Okay, and you also have the other features too. Okay, then you have so here you see the location, right? So whenever you go to the tools, general option and display tab. So how do you want to display? Okay. Oh, that's this is a, like features. Now, how do you want to show that user? So these is a logs. Okay, so this is a logs which are you have three logs. Okay, and execution log, recording log, and correlation results. Okay, so these are the logs. Whenever you're running that script, this gets updated. Okay, and these logs are stored. Okay, so it is stored in some location. You can also view that logs, or the real-time log will be there in the view engine option. Then there is also correlation. Okay, I mean it's not that important. Yeah, you can if you want, if you're interested, you can go ahead and read that one correlation. Um, but I don't think that is much important unless you are going as a a load runner developer or load runner tester or something like that. Otherwise, just to start with the introduction, I think this should be good enough. Okay, and then you have okay, so this is what I was saying about parameterization, right? So how do you do this parameter? So here it's also here also you have like similar concept like objects and values. So object name, so name is whatever the name is, and the value is code. Okay, so whatever the value for that. So now what you do is select that object, complete object, and right click it, and replace with a parameter. Once you do that, okay, now a new pop-up windows comes, okay, uh, and shows what the parameter you want to name it as. Just like you have QTP item, so you can also change this parameter, and then you what parameter want to save. Like is it file, is it Excel dot CSV or no, so on. And then once you have it, then the new pop-up windows comes, and you can save it that, and what are parameters? Okay, file is saved in .dat format. Okay, and then what you do, create a table. Once you create a table, so here the table looks like, since you know in QTP it's easy, we have that already Excel integrated into QTP, but here you don't have, so you need to add manually. Okay, you create a table here and add. Okay, add column or add row. So how do you want to do that? Okay, so you added two rows. Okay, one column and two rows, and then you are entering that parameter value there. Or you can either one more thing you can do is you can upload it. Okay, no, I don't think there is an upload option, but you can add this parameters values here, and then after that, now the color has changed, right? Now it's become purple. Now the value is now changed to 2 city. That means this value is actually replaced with the parameter 2 city. And what is city? London and Frankfurt, right? Two parameters. Oops. Frankfurt and London. Okay, that is, now whenever it runs the script, it runs twice now. Now you want to see the iterations. How many iterations you want? Because now the two parameters, you want to see that it is two iterations. That means it has to run for London, and other it has to run for the Frankfurt. Okay, so that you need to see that two iterations are come. You can assign the iterations after this, and then you have. So scenarios you can either check the scenario as a manual or goal oriented scenario. Okay, whenever you are running in the controller, you can choose that one of the scenarios. Okay, so these are the various features in Loadrunner. So schedule whenever you are trying to run this controller. There are so many options when you are in the design section, right? There's a design section, run section. When you are doing the design section, these are the so many options. How do you want to do that? How many users? So let's say you want to add some of these, every 5 minutes you want to add 50 users, 50 virtual users, so you can even do that. So that is what you can do that. Okay, how the graphs will be. So there's a sample graphs that shows up. You can view that graph and see that this is how it behaves. So once for every 5 users the graph goes up. Okay, so all those you can set into design section in the controller. And then you have so runtime settings. You do this. So this is what we discussed in the run. This is how, like, all the in the controller it looks like, and how many time it is running here, elapsed time shows here. Okay. So this is in Loadrunner. There is not much to do. I mean, there is nothing to do here in this Loadrunner. You only analyze it. Most important is analyze it, and if there are any specific feature or specific requirement, then only you go ahead and use that, and use it. That's it. You don't actually have anything to test something like this is not like functional testing, right? It's completely different. This is like load testing. So you don't do much of interference since it's an automation tool. You don't do much. You just work on that module and forget it, or forget for, if it is long scenario you forget it for like 5 to 10. But in Loadrunner, if there are some critical scenarios, you will be viewing those reports real time. You will be viewing those real time graphs, and you will be with the team members, so every 3 4 members, right? And you'll have projector there, and you'll be seeing this. Okay, this graph is gone up just in 5 seconds. So why it's happening, all those you will be discussing that with the team members. Okay. And then so here you can add virtual user. Yeah, so if the see here's the thing, right? If transaction response time degrades, so if the transaction time degrades, look for bottlenecks. That means what did it cost, what that issue cost, why the time has decreased, and how that application is, why the application is performing so poor, why it's taking too long to to show up. So all those times, okay, all those things, so you need to look. So which graph you need to look. So there are so many, plenty of graphs, right? 30, 40. Which graph you need to look, and what is resources it's consuming. So all those things you can view that. And then you have so analysis part. Okay. So this is like whenever you have finished that controller part, okay, once you have done all the controller, then you pull up the reports. I'm sorry, you pull up the graphs. You pull up the graphs whenever you have stored it, right? Whenever you have stored that controller scripts, you pull up that in the analysis section and analyze that result. What the graphs has done, and then you have this report. Good. This is the analysis summary. Once everything is done in the controller, and after the analysis, so how much time it is taking. Okay, so how many users run 70. What is the throughput time? Is how much throughput it has taken. Okay, how much bytes it has consumed, and then all those information will be there. And is it passed or failed? You view this analysis summary. Okay, so how many errors it has come. Okay, how many errors and how many past transaction, how many failed transactions, all the information will be there, and it is stored into the particular location in the directory. Okay, so this is important. So this is like this, all the summary will be here. So whatever graphs you have chosen, so everything will be in this analysis section. So yes, that's it. So all these are graphs. Okay, so mostly we'll be working on the graphs if you have this one. So everything is in graphs. If you are going to analysis, then everything is graph. And when you are a controller, then you just design how to how to how many users you need to assign, how much to control, what is SLA, service level agreement, all those features will be there in the controller section. Okay, so that's it. I mean, this was like introduction about Loadrunner. Any questions? Okay, so I guess everyone are good, so we can close this class. Yes, today was the last class, so we have completed most of things. I also given you introduction about two tools, two extra tools. I hope that should be good. Sure, if you have any problems, you can email me, okay? And you can also first you need to check with your manager, okay? First, my manager, and then you can reach me out because if there is something else, right? They might assign you some other guy. Okay. Okay. So good luck, everyone. Yeah. Thanks.